Hello and welcome to Freedom from Fear, a German New Medicine podcast. I'm your host, Ashlee Newberry.
And I'm your other host, Abigail Puccioni. Please be aware that nothing discussed here on this podcast should be taken as medical advice.
Consult your trusted professionals and your own inner knowing before making any health decisions.
Okay.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Freedom from Fear. Really happy to have you here. So today we're going to dive into a topic all about viewing GNM as a modality versus a framework. And this is something that I feel like comes up a lot out there when people are starting to get into GNM and, they're excited about it and it's great, but I feel like what can happen a lot is that people start to view GNM as just another thing, a thing to add to their toolbox. And if they're a practitioner in the holistic wellness industry, they might kind of group it in with, like they think, oh, wow, this is a really cool, great, body of knowledge. This makes so much sense. Let me add it into my toolbox with my homeopathy and my essential oils and my supplements and my, diet changes and all the above, right? So and there's actually, which Ashlee will get into in a minute, there's actually a specific Instagram post that we saw that kind of prompted us to make this episode because we realized like, wow, we feel like this is very needed because we see how people out there, I think, really have no clue like what GNM actually is in terms of how it's not a modality. It's not something that you do. It's not something you have in your toolbox. It's not something that, and I hear this a lot too, like, oh, I used GNM to cure XYZ. Or, oh, people will make the claim, which is completely false, that, oh, GNM cures cancer, right? So there's a lot of this, especially people who are, saying bad things about GNM. They try to smear people that, are trying to teach and educate about GNM because they'll be like, oh yeah, those people are, claiming to cure cancer and, that sort of thing. And as educators and practitioners who are practicing from a place of, GNM knowledge, right? Like Ashlee and I both practice and teach in a way that is grounded in GNM knowledge. We just want to say that that's, completely false. And I think anyone who is talking about GNM in this way that, oh, you use it to cure something or that GNM is, the answer to like your health issues or something like that. And we'll unpack this more, but that's not true at all. And I think that there's a lot of nuance to be had here, but this is a really important point. So Ashlee, do you want to jump into the Instagram post we saw?
Yeah. So this must have been last week. I saw someone post about homeopathy, German New Medicine, and nutrition. And they were talking about how, all of these things have some of the answers. And grouping German New Medicine in with homeopathy and nutrition. And it's something different altogether. It's not a modality in itself, but it is the map to understanding how our biology works. Whether you know German New Medicine or not, your body is adapting, whether you understand this or not. And when you understand the wisdom of our biology and understand why and where we have adaptation in our bodies and why we have specific symptoms or, dis-ease, you understand that German New Medicine is the way to understand what's already going on, but it's not something you're doing. The body is already adapting at the moment of a conflict shock, whether you know German New Medicine or not. And those other things like homeopathy and nutrition, are not getting to the root cause of why you're adapting in the first place. And so it's very different. And we do cover, the paradigm shift in episodes 2 and 3. I came from a background of Western medicine. I used to be a nurse, and Abigail came from more of the holistic health side of things, and how, we share more of our personal stories in those episodes. So go take a listen. But
episodes 2 and 3.
Yes, thank you. The danger of grouping German New Medicine in with these, other holistic modalities is that the person is not really understanding what German New Medicine is. Or when someone says, "Oh, German New Medicine didn't work for me," well,
yeah,
I'm sorry to say that that really can't be true, because it's not a modality. It's a map to understanding how your body works. And so, like, that statement doesn't even make sense, because it's not about something working or not, because it's not a modality, it's a map. So, like, if I know most of us use our phone maps, but if you ever had one of those paper maps and you open it up and you're trying to figure out where you're going, the map isn't something, you're not doing anything with the map. You're looking at it and you're seeing, this is where I want to go, this is where this is where that is, and I need to go on this highway to get to this destination. But, like, driving your car to that destination isn't the map. It's not the thing you're doing. You're using the map to understand where you are, where you're going, and your surroundings. In German New Medicine, that is what it is. It's a map to understanding, the map of your body, essentially, where you are in terms of symptoms or conflict activity, and then where you're trying to go. What's the destination? What is the resolution to the symptoms that you're experiencing? And it's understanding that wisdom and the lens through which your symptoms make sense that can support you in resolving it. But, like, at the core of German New Medicine, it's not something you're, quote, doing. But by understanding German New Medicine, you may be doing things differently.
Which is why you can't just really dabble in GNM or, like, add it in with all these other things and other modalities, which, to be fair, a lot of people do combine GNM knowledge and operate from a place of seeing the world through the lens of GNM, and do sometimes utilize other modalities. And that's totally fine. We just are trying to communicate the point that it is not in the same grouping with those things, because, as Ashlee said, it's not a modality. It's a roadmap, a framework. It's literally the lens through which you see the world, which is, how we define paradigm in episodes 2 and 3. So when, it's not the thing that you're viewing, it's actually the lens through which you're seeing everything. It's how you're understanding the how and why your body is adapting. And it's not necessarily telling you what to do to resolve the conflict. That's up to you. And that's where, when we talk about coaching from a GNM perspective, we're not doing GNM with clients. We are coaching from the perspective of primarily teaching, right? We're teaching people, this is what's going on, and this is why this is going on in the body. And this is, based on the symptom, we can help you find the underlying conflict and play detective and figure out, when the initial conflict shock happened and what your tracks are. And we can bring awareness to it. And to be honest, I mean, sometimes GNM knowledge in and of itself, and understanding how and why your body's adapting, understanding that it's not messing up, understanding the underlying conflict and what your tracks are, and bringing awareness to that, for some people, that actually can be a huge part of the resolution. And sometimes that is enough of a perceptual resolution to resolve the whole program. Sometimes, but sometimes there's an underlying biological conflict that, cannot just be resolved through knowing GNM, and just understanding GNM is often not enough. And so I think that's where people can get probably the point of this post was, and probably her experience is that she, does, in her opinion, does GNM, she does homeopathy, she does the nutrition stuff. And by doing GNM, it's probably that she's learned about it, right? And that, well, that wasn't enough in and of itself to resolve my symptoms. And so, we're, not any one of these things is the full picture in and of itself, right? And so I think what we're trying to add some nuance here is that, well, first of all, of course, homeopathy and nutrition, sure, that can be used to perhaps support the body through an active conflict or a healing phase. That can be a tool, right? Because that's a modality, and that's up to the discretion of the person to decide how they want to move forward with supporting their body. But using those things, using the homeopathy, using the nutrition will not resolve the underlying conflict. Unless perhaps a person's belief about, oh, I'm revaluing myself through spending money on myself and buying the homeopathy, and I believe in it, and I have this intention behind using it. Sure, that can definitely be an element in resolution. But typically, all of the different modalities, the things, are not going to be enough to resolve an underlying conflict. And GNM knowledge in and of itself, again, it's not something you do. It's a lens through which you see the world around you. And so a lot of people, what happens is they learn GNM and they're like, well, I'm not better yet. Like, I still have these chronic symptoms. And I'm like, well, you still have those chronic conflicts. So you can have all of the book knowledge in the world, and that will not necessarily translate into doing the deeper awareness work that you need to do to shift things and, have a resolution, a perceptual resolution specifically in your life, which means how how do I need to become a completely different person and completely change the way I'm seeing everything around me so that this conflict can literally no longer be a conflict for me, and that's the deeper work that, Ashlee and I assist people with in our coaching, but also to empower people listening out there. You don't necessarily need a coach, or someone that, to teach you GNM. Like, the resources are out there. You can learn this body of knowledge on your own, and you can, take that personal responsibility and, start to make changes in your life and deepen an awareness and do the deeper work of, okay, how is the way that I'm viewing the world around me even allowing this to still be a conflict in my life? But obviously what we find is that a lot of people do really benefit from, maybe having that extra support and having someone help them understand. But, this knowledge is out there, that there are so many free resources that you can get started with.
Yeah, and I wanted to say, and we covered this on our tracks episode, but just the example you shared about sometimes finding the conflict shock or the track isn't enough, but sometimes it is. And those are the more fun examples to share.
Especially if you realize that underlying conflict is no longer relevant to you.
Exactly.
That's when it's most likely to just kind of fall away just with the knowledge.
What episode was that? Episode 8 that we just put out?
Yeah, I think it's episode 8, the one on tracks.
With the tracks, yeah. And I just wanted to reshare the story about the visual symptoms that I had, that me knowing and seeing the sign from the car accident and like reframing my perspective that it was safe to see the sign was enough to resolve the eye symptoms. Because the relevancy of the car accident happening again at that intersection, or the intersection was, safe to drive through, or like seeing the sign, or, all of the above, I'm no longer in that place anymore. And so the conflict is no longer relevant. And so getting to that place of peace and safety around something is really the key to resolving anything that you're struggling with. Is right, you become a different person as you resolve these things, because then the conflict that was relevant before is no longer relevant, because you're different and you've become a different version of yourself, or the situation has changed where that thing can no longer happen again because you're different, and the situation, because you're different, can no longer happen in the same exact way that it did, the first time or before. But right, sometimes knowing the track, knowing the original conflict shock isn't enough, because there are practical things that you need to do. Like if the main thing that you're struggling with and the main symptoms are around a partner, like sometimes the practical solution is leaving your partner.
Right.
And there may not be enough perceptual resolutions to have within yourself for your body to feel this underlying safety with that person. And so sometimes that practical resolution is leaving the partner or getting a new job, moving, like doing some of these more like life changes that not everyone wants to hear, because
people would rather take a pill.
Oh, it's so true. Like
Yeah.
right, even in the episode we talked about gluten and glyphosate, it's like people would rather change their diet than change their mind.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
it's
and change their
the same thing.
perception.
Yeah, because that stuff is a lot more challenging when it's all, unseen in your head. But also it is empowering because there's always a way out. There's always a way through. Maybe you don't see it at the moment, but there's always a solution and resolution. And maybe that looks different than what you thought. And maybe it has nothing to do with nutrition or homeopathy or, taking supplements, but that it is a more, okay, I need to change something about my life and how I'm living and the lens through which I'm living from. And that can be harder in some cases. But it's also so doable. And I think when you start to understand from an embodiment place of German New Medicine, because we're also not saying just believe us on faith or,
yeah, absolutely
but like seeing this play out and seeing especially like the law of two phases where you have the conflict and then you have the resolution, and that's usually then when you have the symptoms, and seeing it play out in your day-to-day life and having continued experiences where you see those patterns. I mean, it's it's hard to not then not continue to see that, right? And see how this map makes so much sense. And even our podcast title, like Freedom from Fear, like you can let go of those fears of having symptoms or feel like, oh, I can never eat gluten again, or dairy is the devil, or like
yeah. And I know that we talk about this with our episode with Dr. Melissa Sell, also with cancer and more scary diagnoses. But, with some of the people claiming like, oh, GNM heals cancer. Well, it doesn't, but the underlying conflict that would cause the adaptation, that is what we would know as cancer in terms of conventional medicine, you lose the fear of it, it loses its weight. It's not this big scary thing, because it's like, oh, well, this is actually very logical and sensical and happening for a reason. And it's no longer something that you need to fight against, right? That you need to kill. Yeah.
Kill
something
cancer.
that you need to kill, right? It's an adaptation like any other adaptation that, I mean, sometimes, intervention could be necessary to save your life, in certain cases, but for a vast majority of cases out there, simply having this knowledge is enough to lose the fear and start to, one, prevent additional conflict shocks from occurring, but two, to downgrade conflicts that you already have. That can definitely happen just through learning this knowledge. And when you shift your perception, certain conflicts that used to be applicable to you simply no longer are, because you're a different person and you're seeing the world through a different perspective, right? Like, for example, my old me would have definitely had a conflict if, say, I was brought some water at a restaurant and I found out it was tap water. I think I share this
Oh,
example in our in our episode about toxins and glyphosate and all that, but that would have caused a conflict shock with me. But when I learned GNM and I realized, oh, I'm not really afraid of the toxins anymore. Like that's not what's causing symptoms and disease. That is no longer able to cause a conflict shock in me. I can drink tap water without having a conflict. That's where, when people are saying how GNM has changed their lives, and maybe they're using a bit of incorrect verbiage. And that's what we're kind of, nitpicking here. Like, okay, GNM is not a modality. You didn't do GNM, it doesn't cure you. But when you learn and study this beautiful body of knowledge, these biological laws, and it changes the way through which you see the world around you, that's where resolution can happen.
mm-hmm.
But as Ashlee was saying earlier, if you're with an abusive partner, no amount of learning GNM is going to resolve that underlying conflict, because what do you need to do? You need to get out of the relationship. You need to leave that partner, right? That is the resolution. So for some things, the knowledge can be very helpful in downgrading and resolving the conflict. But for other things, sometimes you will need a very practical resolution, which no amount of homeopathy is going to, do the work for you that you need to do. That's not going to resolve something for you that's going to require, leaving that abusive partner.
Yeah. So to continue on that, let's say a person has an indigestible morsel conflict around their partner, and they're always fighting with their partner. There's just this kind of, strife all the time, and they're constantly having these indigestible morsel conflicts. And, their partner is a track, maybe they're arguing is a track. And then again, no amount of nutrition changes is going to help their indigestible morsel conflict, because it's not about the food. And so, and that's where sometimes this information, many times, can be a bit or a lot, it can be confronting, because if you're willing, it allows you to see your innermost thoughts and perceptions of things, because your body doesn't lie. And so there's no tricking your body, or, oh well, I wanted to feel or think about this thing in this way, but then you're having a symptom and it's like, okay, well, your body is saying that that's not how you actually interpreted, the shocking event. Even if you wanted to interpret it a different way, the body is showing you how you actually, your actual perception in the moment of a conflict shock, and is adapting to help you. And so, and there's not really, this is how our biology works. There's not a way around this. But once you understand the wisdom of German New Medicine, right, you can drop the fear and understand that your body's not out to get you. And so if you choose to use these other supportive things like nutrition or homeopathy or essential oils, or, go see a physical therapist, or, whatever you feel like you need, you realize that those things are supporting you. They're not the answer. And that until you get to the underlying conflict and you understand the map of your body, no amount of those outside things is going to resolve, but they can be helpful to getting to the point where maybe you're ready to resolve the conflict, either physically, emotionally, like psychologically, like in your head. I mean, even like going to regular therapy. I just had a person ask me about this a couple weeks ago. And I was telling her about German New Medicine and the premise, and told her about the podcast. And it was about a family member. And she's like, oh, well, would going to therapy help her resolve her symptom? And I was like, well, probably not. Not because therapy is bad or wrong, and therapy can be really useful. But again, it's not getting to the heart of the matter, which is underneath that, right? Whether it's
conflict.
Exactly. Whether it's a symptom or a behavior, what's behind that? What's under that? What's behind that? What's behind that? What's behind that? And getting to those deeper layers and levels, and practicing that daily moment by moment awareness, so that you can know yourself and you can see these connections and connect the dots in your own psyche and see it with curiosity and getting to know yourself, rather than using it as a lens to judge yourself, right?
Right. And when you're viewing the world through the lens of GNM, it changes how you interact with different modalities, also in the different things that you choose to do to support yourself. Because I'm definitely not disputing that certain modalities cannot be a very helpful aid. Say, if you're in a conflict active phase, taking a warm bath to help, bring your body a little bit out of that sympathicatonic state, right? Like a little out of the sympathetic. If you're predominantly in conflict active, or in terms of the nervous system, the more sympathetic state, okay, what are some more parasympathetic things that you can do to kind of help ease, that load on your body, right? Or, when you're in a healing phase, we understand that some helpful things that you do would look different than what you would do for a conflict active phase. And so I know a lot of people that, for example, combine homeopathy with GNM because they know, okay, these different remedies could be supportive of my body when I'm moving through this specific phase. The difference is they're doing it from a place of understanding how and why their body's adapting, and not out of fear and just, oh, I need to try another modality. And if I take enough of this remedy and I do this protocol, then that's going to fix this chronic symptom. That's completely missing the point. I think the primary function really of learning GNM is, well, I think of it two ways. One, as reducing fear, because it's completely, my fear of germs is completely gone because I know GNM, so I'm no longer eligible for a whole slew of different conflict shots that I would have a few years ago when I was scared of germs and bacteria and, all the stuff, right? The wee beasties. But, another way of understanding this though is that GNM, this is it's a theoretical understanding of what's actually going on in your body, the how and the why. So this to highlight the fact that GNM is not a modality. It's not something that you do to heal. People are, obviously, when you look at all the, sickness and chronic symptoms out there, right? People are resolving stuff all the time, or at least, starting to go into resolution. People, you can absolutely resolve conflicts in your life without knowing a shred of GNM knowledge. So, anytime you move or get a new job, or you break up with a partner, get a new partner, these are all potential, or you mend a relationship with a family member, right? You have a deep conversation with someone, and that you reach this level of, resolution, that the stone falls from your soul. Like you feel more at peace about, whatever it is in your life, your family, your friendships, your romantic partnerships, your relationship with your children, with your work, whatever it is, people through, just natural resolution of conflicts in their life, obviously they're resolving stuff, and also just through living more biologically, people can resolve stuff. So that's why I wanted to highlight that, because with GNM, whether or not you know it, this is what's happening in your body. This is, the truth of what's going on. And the perk though of learning GNM and knowing GNM and being able to, apply that knowledge to your life again, it's not a modality, but when you're living your life with this new perspective and you understand this symptom is related to this specific conflict. So this is the conflict that I need to work on resolving in my life. If this conflict is about, my, it's a separation conflict with my, I don't know, mother. Okay, I need to find a way to resolve that and, either be closer with her, perceptually resolve, or, we don't need to get into the topic of resolutions today, but it's kind of a shortcut, right? When oh, okay, this symptom means this, and this is what I need to focus on resolving.
Yes. And I think that wow, words. I had something then that was just like, nope, not going to come out of my mouth. I think the beauty of knowing German New Medicine is also that you can do this consciously, right? Whereas, at least for me personally, right, like before knowing German New Medicine, it doesn't mean that I wasn't activating and resolving conflicts all the time. I mean, that's going to be true whether you know this or not, but then once you understand what's going on and why it's happening, and bringing your conscious awareness to, right, what are your predominant patterns? What kind of conflicts do you keep going into? Like, is it separation conflicts? Is it self-devaluation? Is it, what are the conflicts of your life trying to show you? And what is the message that your body is sending you? And just taking it as a message, not that something's wrong, something's messing up. Oh, I now need to take all these supplements so I don't get sick, or I don't get my kids sick, or, I can go to work or whatever. And, but having the knowledge of understanding what the F is going on, you can do it from this place of awareness and trust, and just knowing that your body is there helping. And all these adaptations have a biological purpose, and they're not random. It's not messing up. And it can show you your innermost thoughts about the world and what you actually believe, and give you an opportunity. And this is the fifth biological law, the quintessence, like an opportunity to evolve and grow as an individual, and then as humans, that we have these constant plethora of opportunities for growth and evolution. And through resolving our own personal conflicts and the biological programs that go along with the conflicts, we evolve and change as individuals and as people. Because then again, like we've said, multiple times already, that then you become a different person that is almost not resistant, but like resilient enough that those type of conflicts can't happen to you again. Or if they do, they're so minute that you might have a cough for a few days versus full-blown pneumonia, which is the same,
right?
The bronchial mucosa, the territorial fear conflict. And I don't know about you, but I'd much rather have a cough for a few days than full-blown pneumonia. It's much less impactful on your day-to-day life, so that you can keep living and doing things that you love, and spending time with people you love, and traveling, and just like getting through things quicker, so that any physical symptoms that you might have are going to be less intense. And then also, maybe you don't even have a conflict shock when faced with the same situation, because you're like, I've been through this before. It's no big deal. It's not shocking. It's not isolating. And you know how to handle it in the moment. So then you don't even have a conflict shock. And then there isn't any cell adaptation. And then there isn't any symptoms, because you can work through it, and you can handle it, and you can get through it quicker and smoother, and it's like not a big deal. Whereas, maybe in the past, it would have been a big deal.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think another really big shift as far as the language we're using around this, when people say, oh, I used, GNM to heal me. Another thing that's really inherently wrong with that statement is when you know GNM and when that's your predominant paradigm, the way you're seeing the world, you understand that there is actually nothing to heal. Your
Mm,
body is adapting for a purpose, right? And maybe you're dealing with a hanging healing, a chronic symptom that's showing you the underlying unresolved conflict in your life. But there is nothing malignant. There is no malignancy in nature. There is nothing, you know, randomly bad happening going on that needs to be healed. So when
mhm,
you view yourself as a completely whole being, that there's nothing wrong going on, like you start to view yourself as someone who doesn't need to be healed. And I think
mhm,
that's the biggest perception shift we're talking here, because when you're, have a list of your favorite things to do for, healing, and, there's homeopathy, nutrition, supplements, releasing trapped emotions via something like emotion code, and then GNM's on the list of other things you're dabbling in, that's completely missing the point. And any benefits of GNM, of learning GNM and, understanding this knowledge, the benefits come with the paradigm shift, with the
mm,
perception shift. If you're still, kind of dipping one toe in germ theory land, or, kind of dipping one toe in the conventional paradigm or the holistic paradigm, where you're still kind of believing in, labels like Lyme disease or mold toxicity, I hate to say it, but you're going to be sorely disappointed with the ability of GNM to really like do anything for you when you're still in that in between space of not having fully made the paradigm shift.
yeah, yeah. And I mean, and I don't know if I've said this on the podcast thus far, but this is why I never refer to myself as a healer, because also
Yeah.
I'm not doing anything as a coach. Like, I'm not healing you. I'm not, like, there's nothing new under the sun. Like, I'm there to support you on the journey to your own personal resolution, whatever that may be, and kind of holding your hand. But ultimately, as the client, or, whoever is listening, like, the action steps that you need to take in order to resolve your conflicts are things that only you can do. And that
Yeah.
may sound maybe a little defeating, because it's like, oh, trying to transfer my personal power outside of myself, like maybe that's not going to work. Whether that's our doctor, our teacher, our guru, our coach, right? Um,
Yeah.
and the thing is, sometimes we need to be reminded. Like, I've worked with many coaches over the years, as a client, and it can be helpful to have someone remind you and be supporting you. But ultimately, at the end of the day, you're taking whatever action that you need to do in order to get to resolution, whatever that means for you. And, like, as a coach, as a practitioner, like, we are not, you can't skip doing the work for yourself. And, like, taking that personal responsibility doesn't have to be a drag. It doesn't. Um, but it's very empowering, because you realize that it is actually within your personal power to do something new and to resolve whatever it is that you've been struggling with. And the answer doesn't lie outside of you. That, we don't have all the answers, and there's nothing magical. I'm telling my clients or people that are more curious about, what is German new medicine, but it's how can you find those answers within yourself, so that you can get to resolution. And right, like Abigail was saying about the fact that there isn't something to heal or fix. Like, you're not broken. Your body is not broken, even when you're having these scary diagnoses like cancer, or even when they say, oh, you have terminal cancer. And that doesn't necessarily have to mean what they say it means. Because when you understand the beautiful wisdom of your biology, you realize that it was never messing up in the first place. And that there's a point to all of it. There's a purpose. And it's not random. And you can do something about it, right? That you have the power to change yourself, to change your life, and to do what's going to be the most supportive to get you to that safety and peace that your body needs to know, so that the adaptations don't continue, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And, just to touch on, again, all the modality stuff, personally, how I choose to practice with my clients, and I have, if they want to use different modalities, that's for them to decide. I have, I'm not like, you need to stop all the supplements you're taking. It's not like this, oh, you can't do that or you shouldn't, right? But how I tend to work with people is just to make it about learning GNM and, embodying the GNM knowledge through understanding the underlying conflicts that are going on and working on deepening an awareness and, everything you've been saying. Like, so it's not, again, that I have anything against using modalities. That's just personally not how I choose to, with myself, but then also with clients, because I find that the focus can very easily get on the tangible
Yeah.
stuff, right? The supplement to take, the thing to do, the, breath work routine that I need to check off my, to-do list every day, the meditation I need to do, the, all the doing. And again, some of these things can be very helpful for supporting people with where they're at, even in resolving conflicts. But I never make that the focus of my coaching or in my own life when it comes to resolving my own conflicts, because I find that it can often be just a distraction, really. It can be a
Yeah.
really big distraction. And I can't tell you how many people I work with that have really severe, health anxiety, and they will gravitate towards all of the things because it feels safe to know, okay, this is what I need to do to heal. But I'm like, no, 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 there's nothing to heal. And that's the medicine is in that statement, that realization, understanding, oh, there's nothing to heal. It's about the perception shift and becoming a totally different person with how you're viewing the world around you. And, of course, there's a lot of other stuff that, we get into with the awareness work, but, people often ask me like, okay, well, what do you do? And I know you get this question a lot too,
Yeah.
but the point is understanding that you don't need to do anything. It's who you need to become. Who
Yep.
are you? How are you seeing the world around you? How are you thinking about your symptoms? What do you believe about health in the body? That is the single biggest shift. And so in that way, talking about, okay, well, what do you do? I think learning GNM is one of the most helpful things that you can, take action on and do, because it's going to help reduce the fear. And it's not necessarily going to resolve all the underlying conflicts, but it's like this, big breath of fresh air, like this sigh of relief, this, oh, okay, I can chill out about things. And when you start to be able to chill out about things a little more and reduce the fear, then you're going to be able to start to downgrade your conflicts, and you're going to be able to see all the conflicts in your life in a totally different way. And when you can understand that connection between symptom and conflict, and when you see that connection playing out in your life and bringing awareness around things like, your tracks and stuff, that is the work. That is what you do in a very real sense.
Yeah. And we're not saying that this doesn't mean do nothing either, because
Right.
there are, the doing comes from the awareness of your patterns and doing that inner work inside your head. And that's much less tangible than, right, oh, just checking, oh, took my supplements today, did my meditation, did my daily journaling, went on my walk outside, did my red light therapy, blah, 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 you know, spent most of my day in my morning routine. I see lots of jokes about that.
Oh yeah.
And we're not saying any of those things are bad or that you shouldn't, but why are you doing them?
Yeah.
And what's the intention? You know, again, what's underneath that you feel like you have to do these things or you won't heal? Well, that's setting yourself up to have more conflicts or to be, you know, more in unalignment with yourself, because maybe certain days those things, you know, or it's raining outside and you don't want to go for a walk or whatever. But if you think that, oh, you have to do your daily walk in order to heal and resolve, like, you know, you get into this kind of frenzy about, you know, whatever that checklist is for you. And then you're at a place or a day where you can't complete the checklist. It's not about the checklist, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, I'll be honest, most days I don't meditate anymore. It's not because I don't find that meditation is beneficial. I was really into it for a long time, and I feel like it definitely helped me get to a place where I am able to kind of, you know, catch the thoughts as they're coming and have this awareness of my moment by moment experience. But most days I don't meditate anymore. And I don't feel like I necessarily need to. Not that meditation is bad. I mean, I recommend it to a lot of my clients, actually. And sometimes I do it, but I know that, you know, let's just keep using the meditation tool as an example, that whether I meditate or not, that's not the answer to my resolution of a chronic symptom that I'm struggling with, or my client or anybody.
Yeah. I mean, you can meditate till the cows come home, and that's not necessarily going to resolve your underlying conflict at all. So I think that's the nuance that we're trying to bring to this discussion. And just to, you know, start to wrap up here, but I often tell my clients this, you know, if I had a magic pill that would take away your symptoms and, you know, take away your suffering, I would be doing you a huge disservice by giving that to you, because your symptoms are your greatest oracle, your guide, your, you know, the flashlight that's shining a light on the areas in your life that need some attention, right? Showing you the unresolved conflicts that's going to lead you into your greater, you know, purpose, if you will, greater fulfillment, greater joy, you know, getting more of what we do want out of life. And if we skipped, and often people do this through using all these band-aid approaches with different modalities or with conventional medicine, and nothing's wrong with it. But I think people are missing so much of the picture when they're, you know, say using a modality or something to, you know, as a band-aid fix. You're missing so much, because that symptom is there for a reason. You know, what is it trying to teach you? What is it showing you?
Yeah. Yeah. And I know I've noticed, I think Abigail's favorite word to use in the podcast is nuance. But
I do love that word.
I wasn't counting how many times you said it, but and I think that that's the important piece, right? Which is why we started the podcast in the first place, to kind of dive deeper into these nuances and into these subtleties that can be hard to get across, you know, in an Instagram post or a reel that's, you know, 30 seconds long. Because in its essence, German New Medicine is simple, right? That the body is not out to get you. Most of your symptoms are You're already in resolution. You're already in the healing phase. But the specifics and how you use this information and how it can change how you live your life is more complicated, right? And can be maybe inaccessible in those moments where you're having a really challenging symptom. And this is why we also encourage people to learn this information before you have a big scary diagnosis, or before you're going through a super intense healing. I mean, even on the last episode we just recorded, I'm so grateful that I had this information and was living from this perspective already before the car accident I had last year.
Yeah.
Because my outcomes would have been vastly different had I not already known this information and understood the symptoms I was going through and my injuries from this perspective. I'd probably still be having problems, and I'm not.
Yeah.
And, so really learn this well, and learn how your body is working while you're healthy and while you're, able to see the more subtle conflicts and resolutions. So you build up this, practice and practical understanding of what's happening. So if you have a bigger resolution or you have more intense symptoms, you have this underlying wisdom that you're not in fear, or less fear than you would have been before. And that is invaluable. And I mean, it's changed my life for the better in so many different ways, and saved me money too, by not having to spend money on all of these
protocols,
things that I'm like, oh, I actually don't need that,
Yeah. All the things. And again, we can definitely do the things if we want to, like getting a massage. It feels good. It's relaxing. Maybe you want to do some, that tapping or a breath work session because you like the sensation it creates in your body because it feels good, right? That is the nuance that we're talking about here, to use my favorite word. And so it's not something that, I'm going to add, I need to sit down and do my red light therapy, and do my whole morning routine because I'm trying to heal this chronic symptom. Again, total perception shift. There's nothing to heal. You are changing literally who you are and the way in which you're viewing the world around you. It is a radical change. And if you're, again, dabbling or not quite, ready to fully make that shift, that's totally fine. Have, grace for yourself, all of that. And it, you should see if this makes sense for you and try it out. Just don't take our word for it. But, until you fully make that paradigm shift, you're not really going to get all of the benefits that GNM has to offer through, like what Ashlee was talking about, reducing the fear. And that comes from the paradigm shift. So hopefully, you have all enjoyed the nuance in this episode, and hopefully this is helpful. This is something I'm sure we'll talk about again at some point. And I think we also want to do an episode on how to resolve stuff, whether perceptual resolutions or practical. We'll dive more into that. I know we have an episode out with Stephen Ravenstag, where we also dive more into how to use awareness work, right, to enact a perceptual resolution and what that looks like. So, yeah.
I was going to sing, but I decided not to. Thank you so much for listening and for your continued support for the podcast. We love our listeners and the feedback we've been getting. Stay tuned for future episodes, and we'll see you next time.
Bye, guys. We hope you enjoyed today's conversation. We appreciate you being here.
If you would like some additional support in navigating your health symptoms, we both provide coaching services from a German New Medicine perspective.
Our Instagram handles and personal websites are linked in the podcast description.